right, are we ready to proceed? Okay. Good afternoon, and welcome to this online hearing of the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Ottawa. The Committee of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial tribunal appointed by City Council to make decisions on certain types of applications under the Planning Act. My name is John Blatherwick, and I will be chairing this hearing today. With me are my fellow panel members, Bonnie Oak-Charon, Stan Wilder, Heather McLean, and Michael Wildman. Please take note that this video is streamed on YouTube. The video, will be archived along with today's agenda on the city's website. Before we begin, we have a few items to outline for your information. While the issues surrounding development in the city are broad, our mandate is quite limited. The committee cannot consider aspects of the proposal that are not related to the required variances: noise, pollution, property maintenance, property values, prosecution for illegal construction, personal comments regarding neighbors, agents, or applicants, additional variances without proper public notice. If there is an identified need for an additional variance or variances, including an increase in the extent of the relief required, a recirculation of the application is required. As part of the statutory public notification requirements, each applicant was required to post a sign on the property and file a statutory declaration confirming the sign posting. We have received one so far for this hearing, so I'll have to administer an oath to applicants or owners for us to be able to proceed with their item on today's agenda. Regarding quorum, if this is lost during the hearing due to technical difficulties, the proceedings will pause to allow time for the resolution of the issue. Failing the ability to reinstate quorum, hearing of the items remaining will resume at the outset of the next regularly scheduled meeting of the committee. In terms of the hearing process, listed on the agenda and appearing on the screen are the applications we will hear today. For the sake of efficiency, the committee may deal with agenda items in a different order. Note that the committee members have reviewed the application materials prior to this hearing and any written submissions received in support or in opposition. In addition, the committee will hear today oral submissions from any interested parties as part of our proceedings. The committee may ask for a brief presentation by the applicant, followed by questions from the members where clarification may be needed. The public submissions portion of the hearing will then begin, and any interested parties will be invited to make their submissions to the committee. Panel members may then ask follow-up questions where added clarification may be required. When you are called upon to provide your comments, we will ask you to do the following. Start with stating your name and municipal address. For the record, we may ask you to spell your name. Then begin your submission by addressing your comments to the panel members. You may ask questions, but please direct them only to the chair. Please limit your comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. Any exceptions will be at the committee's discretion. Once all interested parties have had an opportunity to address the panel, the public submissions portion of the hearing will then be closed. The committee will then make an oral decision to either grant or deny the application. The committee may also choose to reserve its decision. In such case, the panel will deliberate further on the evidence presented immediately following adjournment of the public hearing. In either case, the committee will send within 10 days of its decision, and to all parties and to those who have requested it, a written notice of decision that sets out the reasons for the decision. All decisions of the committee are subject to a 20-day appeal period, during which the decision can be appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal for a fee. Before we begin, are there any declarations of interest for any of the members, either for the agendas on or the items on this agenda or panel 2 or panel 3? None? Fine. We have no minutes to confirm, so we will move to adjournment requests. And the committee is aware of 2 adjournment requests for today's hearing. And the first one we'll deal with is item 7 on the agenda, Ottawa Community Housing Corporation, 715 Mickenack. And this adjournment request was requested by a neighbor, and I believe the requester is going to will be Ms. Thompson from the Wateridge Village Community Association. Is she there?
Yes, I am.
Ms. Thompson, please articulate your request for an adjournment.
I believe the latest information that the committee has on file was a revised variance application submitted October 5th. The purpose for the last adjournment was to revise the variances and to have further consultation. We did undertake 2 consultation sessions with Ottawa Community Housing planners and our councillor on October 13th and 26th, where a number of changes were suggested and agreed upon. We were provided by the applicant a partially updated set of drawings on the morning of November 1st, which was the day we were required to provide a presentation. It did not include the full set of drawings, and there were items that hadn't been dealt with and some errors. We don't believe this revised set of drawings has been submitted to the committee either to be reviewed, so that we're asking for an opportunity for those drawings to be completed and submitted to the panel so that the variance hearing could be held based on the latest version of this proposal. We also note that there has been no letter or planning rationale submitted that we're aware of that would have helped to explain the reasons for the variances based on the 4 tests. And we are hoping that that would also be submitted by the applicant as part of their variance application so that we have better grounds on which to evaluate the variance.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Just to staff, revised plans for this application came in exactly when did we receive them?
Mr. Chair, I believe that was on Monday. Maddie, perhaps you can confirm.
Yes, it was on Monday.
So what we have is what the Wateridge Village Community Association has received.
We haven't received, we just saw a work in progress on Monday morning, so we haven't received revised plans from the applicant.
So our information may be different than your information, Ms. Thompson.
Yes, I don't know what your information is, so it could well be.
I believe Ms. Gilchrist is the agent for the applicant. Ms. Gilchrist, are you there?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon.
All right. You've heard the Ms. Thompson on behalf of our community association requesting a further variance so that discussions can continue on this application.
Yes, and if I may, through you, Mr. Chair, I have some information to hopefully add some clarity and response to the adjournment request. So we were adjourned at the October 6th Committee of Adjustment hearing. And the reason for that is new variances were identified through the site plan circulation process. And a subsequent package was submitted to the Committee of Adjustment to reflect those 2 new variances with a revised planning rationale to demonstrate the justification for them. So that was submitted to the committee on October 5th. And the subsequent meetings that were held, as Ms. Thompson noted correctly, of course, discussed a number of items that are very much relevant to the site plan review process. However, the only matter before the committee today that is excuse me, been revised is the plan that was provided to the committee on Monday that indicates a change to the parking layout and an increase of parking spaces provided by 3 spaces. So our variance improved. So we're seeking slightly less relief than we were initially. So that is why the plans submitted were only the site plan and that no further justification was submitted. In response to the adjournment request, I believe that we can, myself, the members of OCH, planning staff, my IBI colleagues who are all present today, I believe we can address all of the community association comments that are relevant to the minor variance application that is before the committee today with respect to the parking reduction primarily. The other matters that we have ongoing discussions with the Wateridge Village Community Association are germane to the site plan application. So on that note, I would also say that we have a very positive report from planning staff with no concerns, and we have not received any other public comments to date. So with that being said, respectfully, through you, Mr. Chair, we would ask that the committee hear the application today.
So what the committee received on Monday was the same materials that were sent to the Wateridge Community Association representatives and neighbors.
I personally cannot confirm. I did not provide that to the Wateridge Village Community Association, but I can confirm that it is very consistent with all our discussions to date.
So you can't confirm that the Wateridge Community Association has received the same information that we've received on Monday.
Perhaps,
which by the way
is
Ms. Gilchrist, is very late in the process. I mean, we have a request that all changes be in by the Friday before a hearing.
Yes, I understand, Mr. Chair. However, the change was quite minor, and it was an improvement to the parking. It was just a change from 96 to 99. No other changes to the plans.
But you're not sure that the neighbors have been informed of that.
Perhaps that's something that the committee coordinator could speak to.
The neighbors have not been otherwise informed of that.
So we have one information package and the neighbors have another. I'm not prepared to proceed with this item today. Other members of the committee?
If I may, Mr. Chair, though the exact plan that I emailed to the Committee of Adjustment on Monday was not simultaneously sent to the Community Association, it is consistent with materials provided to the Community Association throughout our discussions over the past 2 weeks. We are talking about the same changes and the same plans.
You can't confirm that what you sent us was sent to them.
I did not copy them on the email, no. But the plans are consistent with what has been shared with the Community Association to date.
Mr. Wilder? We proceed with this or not? You're muted, Mr. Wilder.
Well, I think that I'm really of two minds here, frankly. We are looking at really one variance, it would appear, that impacts the changes. The rest, when you look at them, are very much site plan related. And I guess the site plan is still in the works. Is that correct? I believe. I don't believe the site plan has been approved yet. It's still open for discussion.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, that is correct. We are coordinating amongst the various disciplines and consultants to make a site plan resubmission next week. So there will be ongoing discussion with the Community Association through the site
I was
plan.
just going to say, before you submit anything next week, I would hope that a number of the concerns that they have, which I know are site plan related, that it is discussed with them. They have an opportunity for input. But in terms of the plans that we received today, I mean, it looks as though what we're dealing with is just a reduction from 99 to 96 spaces. I'd like to hear from the other members and see what they wish to do. Thank you.
Respectfully, it's 96 to 99.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I made the it's 96 to 99. Sorry, I said the reverse. Sorry.
Apologies.
I think out of fairness to the Community Association that we can't expect them to have prepared a response, not having received the materials. So that's my opinion.
All right, Mr. Wildman.
Thank you, Chair. Two questions. To Ms. Thompson, you've heard what the proponent's agent said today. Does that give you enough comfort to proceed, or does that still concern you?
I am still very concerned. There are 4 issues in the revised discussions there are issues that are revised discussions that I would think, affect 4 of the requested variances, which we are still hoping to greatly reduce or eliminate. I'm also one person. We are a committee in the community association. And so even information that's provided me today, I don't personally have the ability or want to take on the responsibility to speak for a whole community on information that I have never seen.
And if you'd had that information last Friday, Ms. Thompson, you probably would have had the opportunity to discuss it with your neighbors.
Certainly, we would have done that in order to meet.
Yeah, that's the problem with late submissions.
Second question, Mr. Chair, for staff. I see a couple of other planning staff, but can staff tell me where, from the city's perspective, we are on the site plan?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I might have to confirm with Ms. Gilchrist on that, but I believe there have been 2 submissions, if I'm not mistaken, already.
How many
Thanks,
more
Craig.
times is this going to be revised and resubmitted?
I might defer to Ms. Baldwin, the planner on the site plan control application for that.
Ms. Baldwin, where are we on the site plan?
Good morning, Community Adjustment Panel. Yes, Craig is correct that we have received 2 site plan submissions, and planning staff, development review staff have no concerns with with hearing the variances today. We have no concerns with the variances as they relate to the site plan process.
Thank you. Ms. McLean? You're muted, Ms. McLean. You're still muted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think because this has been changing, the application has been changing. An amendment is now in to increase the parking. I think it merits another, maybe a 2-week adjournment.
Yeah, I agree. So I think what we will do is we will adjourn this application. We have space on the second hearing in November, Mr. Secretary Treasurer.
Yes, we do, Mr. Chair.
All right. We're going to
May I,
agenda.
sorry, Mr. Chair, before you decide on this, may I speak to this adjournment request?
And who am I speaking to?
This is Jenny Klug from Housing Services with the city.
Mhm.
So I just want to express the importance of this development to the committee. It is being funded by all 3 levels of government. They are already behind schedule. The previous adjournment request was not ideal for the timing of this project. So I would request that the application is heard today. Ottawa Community Housing has provided responses to the Community Association about their concerns. And from what I understand, the revised plans that were submitted earlier this week are, as Tess said, just related to the parking, which, as she said, is improving the situation. So in my mind, the community has all of the information they need for the application to proceed today.
Well, that may be your opinion on this. However, we've heard from Ms. Thompson, and quite frankly, this committee really doesn't appreciate things coming in like this. If this was such an important project, all the I's should have been dotted and all the T's should have been crossed, and we wouldn't be in this situation. So thank you very much for your input, but I believe we will adjourn this until the second hearing in November. Thank you very much. Now, a second application up for adjournment. Is item 10 on the agenda, 332 Somerset Street East. And this is an adjournment request from a neighbor as well. And this would be, I believe, where are we here? was not Miss Whitaker. Miss Porter, I believe, was the applicant who requested the original adjournment. Miss Porter, are you there?
I'm here, Mr. Chair, and correct, I am the neighbor from 330 Somerset East. Did send an email today advising the Committee of Adjustment kind of email information that the adjournment was no longer required. So we can proceed today. Thank you.
All right. And there's a planner there who can speak to this application. Are you comfortable with us?
Hi, Mr. Chair. Sorry, you cut out for a second. I'm the planning consultant for this file, and yes, we're comfortable with proceeding today.
I was speaking to thank you, Ms. Doe.
Sorry.
I wanted to hear from the city department. I didn't know you worked for the city of Ottawa.
No, I don't, but you cut out at the end, so I just.
Yeah.
Sorry for that.
Mr. Hamilton.
Apologies, Mr. Chair. Yes, we are comfortable proceeding today.
All right. Okay. So are we on the committee prepared to deal with this application, given that the adjournment request has been withdrawn? Okay. We'll deal with the application in the normal order. Thanks very much. All right. Okay. First item on the agenda we will deal with is item number 1, 639 Rowan Wood. This is a minor variance to permit a reduced front yard, reduced corner side yard, reduced rear yard setback, and reduced second floor rooftop terrace setback. It is proposed to construct a new second floor loft on the existing one-story detached dwelling, a new front porch, and a terrace on the roof of the existing garage. And we have revised plans that were submitted late on this, on the application on the 2nd of November. So I believe Ms. Doe is the agent for the applicant.
Hi.
And we'll have to go through the sworn declaration before we begin. You solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing and clearly visible and legible during the entirety of that time.
I affirm.
All right. The planning department is happy with this application. No problems.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Yes, we have no concerns, and additionally, the variance E was removed.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Ms. Daou, briefly, please, present your application.
Sure, I do have some presentation materials as well. So
These are the revised drawings?
Yes, these are the revised drawings, and I do apologize. Unfortunately, sometimes we receive comments midday on the Monday, so we try as quickly as possible to send the revisions in.
Yes,
however, in this case, the revisions we feel are an improvement to the application, and again, remove one of the variances required. So I'll just walk you through this application. The site is a corner lot located on the north side of Dover Court with frontage also on Rowan Avenue within the McKellar Park community. Go to the next slide. The proposal is to retain the existing footprint of the single detached dwelling, construct a half-story loft addition to the front portion of the dwelling, and then add a terrace to the rooftop of the garage, which will be accessed by the interior loft space.
The dwelling and attached garage have existed in their present location since at least 1965 per Geo Ottawa mapping. So the site does enjoy legal non-complying setbacks. However, to facilitate the half-story addition, because of the proposed walls extending within the existing non-complying setbacks, we require variances to section 3(3)B of the bylaw. So that includes reduction in front yard and corner side yard setbacks, as well as rear yard setback and rear yard area.
Just out of curiosity, Ms. Daou, are
Yes.
these four variances reflective of an existing condition?
That's correct. So because we are adding the half-story addition to the roof, we are not moving halfway towards compliance. So we have to vary the existing footprint conditions.
Okay, sorry, please continue.
Sure. So stemming from comments we received from neighbors in the community, we have adjusted the plan to reduce the extent of the terrace, as I had previously mentioned. We wanted to increase the distance between the edge of the terrace to the adjacent property to the east. So we have eliminated variance E, and the terrace setback does now comply with the required rear yard setback for the site. It also does comply with all of the setback requirements from the corner side yard and interior side yard setback. So ultimately, there is no longer any actual development within the rear yard setback or area. However, because there's work done to the overall building and the changing of the roof line, we're retaining variances C and D in an abundance of caution to regularize those conditions. We've also added an opaque privacy fence along the north side of the terrace, which will provide added visual and noise screening between the rear yard of this parcel. And we have ensured that the terrace doesn't extend further than their adjacent shed. So the elevations you'll see here, we're modestly just increasing the roof line essentially of the dwelling. There are no added windows along the corner side or interior side yard setbacks, and just one window added towards the Rowan wood front face of the garage, and there will be a new deck installed as well. The building is only 3.98 meters in height total, whereas 8 meters would be required under the zoning. So it is definitely a modest increase of the height, and really does retain the original character of this house and within the immediate context as well. So I'll just go to the next slide, which just shows some examples as to how the proposal is characteristic of the houses within the neighborhood. I just did a desktop survey of the very immediate surroundings, and the properties highlighted in black are each 1.5 or 2-story single detached dwellings. And in orange, you'll see that the non-complying setbacks of this property are quite characteristic of other corner lots along Dover Court, which each have their technical frontage facing the interior local streets and their corner side yard setbacks along Dover Court Avenue. So the regularization of these non-complying setbacks is, again, characteristic of this immediate context of the neighborhood. Again, you can see some street view images here. The proposal will have no impact to trees. So there's one tree that will be retained on site. And again, it does retain the original character of both the house and the neighborhood by only modestly increasing the height of the building, therefore meeting the intent of the compatibility criteria in the official plan. Of course, the intent and purpose of their setback requirements under the zoning bylaw and to ensure that there's sufficient open space on site, which will be retained. Again, the footprint is not moving towards introducing new or less complying setbacks, rather just maintaining what currently exists today. So the proposal does meet the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw in that capacity. And the revitalization of an existing single detached dwelling within this neighborhood to make it more livable within the community for the property owner, as well as adding some modest outdoor living space that does comply with zoning otherwise, is desirable for the appropriate development of this land. So given these factors, we're of the opinion that the proposal does meet the intent and purpose of does meet the board test under section 45 of the Planning Act. And I'm happy to answer any questions if
Any questions from the committee to Ms. Doe? Okay.
No.
I also have I have three other speakers on my list. Mr. Kershaw, did do you wish to speak to this, or has Ms. Dow covered all the bases?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Kershaw is our designer for the project.
Okay.
We're fine with whatever, Jessica, unless we're here for any questions if there is any.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And the property owner, Mr. Janison.
Hello.
Hi.
I have nothing to add to what Jessica explained.
All right.
I don't know if there's anything.
Okay. And we also have one of the neighbors. That's either Mr. or Mrs. Mellock.
Yes. Hi, Ms. Mellock. Emma.
Okay.
I reside at 635 Rowan Wood, and I wrote to the committee to express concern with the minor variance application, primarily regarding my loss of privacy. And the original plan was for a new structure with a second story, allowing full visibility of my backyard, creating an overlook that does not exist today. And I contacted the planner, Ms. Dow, to indicate my concerns. And since submitting my written comments to you, I have since spoken with both her and my neighbor, Jordan, and they appear to have taken my concern seriously. The applicant, as discussed, has agreed to install a 5.5-foot opaque privacy fence along the north property line and to move the terrace back to extend no further than the roof line of my adjacent detached garage. So I'd like to thank you both, Jordan and Jessica, for your cooperation. And I would ask the committee to please ensure that this the installation of the privacy screen is imposed as a condition of the variance, or that you approve this. I guess this could be accomplished as well by approving subject to the new the revised plans.
Which is exactly what we'll do.
Thank you.
Other than that, you're happy with this? You're now happy with the application?
Yes, thank you.
One of the neighbor who had concerns and has since withdrawn those concerns because they're satisfied with the outcome of the discussions with the owner and the owner's agent. Okay, so no questions from the members. So we have before us an application amended with the plans filed, and the neighbors are happy. We've had there's one reduction, one deletion, variance E, leaving us with 4 variances, A, B, C, and D, which all relate to an existing condition on site. All in favor of the application as amended? Application's approved. Good luck with your project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next application on the agenda is item 2, 158 Barton Court. There's a minor variance to permit an increased deck projection into a rear yard. It is proposed to demolish the existing deck in order to reconstruct a new similar deck in its place. And the agent for the applicant is a Mr. Wilgress. Is he there?
Mr. Chair, the agent doesn't appear to be on the call. I can give him a call.
If you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Well, what we'll do is we'll step this down and come back to it. Next item on the agenda is item number 3, 1113 Sherwood Avenue. It's a consent to subdivide the property in 2 separate parcels of land to establish separate ownerships for 2 proposed detached dwellings, one on each newly created parcel. The existing duplex dwelling and detached garage are to be demolished. And the statutory declaration has been filed for this application, so we won't need to do the oath. The agent for the applicant is Mr. McIntosh. Is he there?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Josh.
So forgive me, I'm not a planner by trade. So do you want me to just go over the proposal for the severance and
Yes,
then?
please. Yeah, very briefly.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, so the original parcel was a 66 wide by 88 approximately deep. We're severing it into two, part 4 and part 1, as seen in the diagram from the surveyors, with part 3 and part 2 being reciprocal right of ways in the center for a laneway down the center, which would be utilized by both part 4 and part 1. There's no minor variances. It's just a severance.
You're aware of the planning department's concerns regarding the mature tree that is going to be impacted by part 2 and part 3.
Yes, I got the comments a couple of days ago, and my proposal for that is to plant, presuming it's permitted and it's removed, is to plant a singular tree in front of each house on the on center on each part 4 and part 1. So I propose to put 2 new trees in center of the new proposed lots to supplement for the existing one that would be removed.
So you haven't considered a design change which would facilitate the retention of that mature tree on the site?
Well, to be quite honest with you, based on the design, this proposed to be the most functional, less the implication of the tree from a functional perspective for both lots, and to not have to comply with the streetscape character analysis and not have the garages in the front. This was what we proposed to be the best solution. So we looked at it, but this is what we came up with, to be honest.
All right, Mr. Wildman, you had a comment?
Question for Ms. Young. You've heard what the proponent is suggesting as an alternative to the removal of tree number 1. Just wondering what your thoughts are on that, and is that what is driving condition number 9, the tree planting plan?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would prefer to retain the existing tree and to find ways to put driveways around the outsides of the property or in some other location. It looks like there are options to develop this site with the same number of houses, same number of units with that tree retained. So that would be forestry's preference. The reason for the planting condition is if this does get approved as is, then it would be a requirement to plant both compensation trees for the loss of the city tree, but also to ensure that there is 1 new tree in the front of each lot at the end of this.
So if I could ask, the tree that's there, what is it, and how would the design be altered that it could be retained?
I have a well.
I'm asking the forester.
Oh, sorry.
It's a maple tree, and the design that, I mean, I don't want to put words in anyone else's mouth, but the design that I could see to avoid the tree would be to not have a central driveway. It would be to have 2 separated driveways on the outsides of the property, or some other arrangement of parking. But whatever it would be, it would just not be in the center.
I take it that this is not a distinct tree?
It's a city-owned tree, so it doesn't matter what size it is. All city trees are protected.
All right.
Thank you, Ms. Young.
Okay. Anything further, Mr. Wildman?
No, Mr. Chair.
Comments from any of the other members? Seems to me, and I'm just my personal comment, that this is a case of the streetscape character analysis taking precedence over retaining mature green space.
I would agree with that in this specific case.
So you could redesign this with garages facing the street and save the tree, correct?
I could, yes, but then it would be non-compliant in that regard. So I don't know how that works in the context of what procedures would move forward in that sense, but yes. Yes, it could be redesigned.
Just briefly, you're aware of the conditions that the department, oh, Mr. Wilder first. Mr. Wilder, you had a question, comment?
Yes, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I'd like to ask the city planner. So you've heard the comments from the forester. You've heard the comment from the applicant. It seems that the alternative to this is a bit of a dilemma here. I know, in fact, if they submit a revised plan with front-facing garages, I know exactly what your comment's going to be right away, that you're going to oppose the application. So where does that leave us? Mr. Hamill?
Mr. Chair, the streetscape character analysis does not permit garages on this street, but it does permit side yard parking. So we would not have concerns with, or hypothetically speaking, in the scope of our conversation currently, we wouldn't have concerns with 2 driveways on the future lots. Our concerns would more so be with the garages themselves. So garages wouldn't necessarily be a requirement, so that you could create a compliant design without them.
All right, thank you.
Any chance, Mr. McIntosh, that a redesign saving trees is possible, and that we can adjourn this to give you time to talk to the forester and to the planning department to come up with a more amenable solution?
I mean, I guess it's not really my discretion. It's up to you all. So I would say that honestly, we tried to do the 2 parking lots on the side. If we had done that, we couldn't fit single detached houses. They would have had to be semi-detached.
Right.
The intention was to have 2 single family homes on the lot, just for space, and because there's not a lot of single family homes going up in this neighborhood. We thought that would add value. In regards to the trees, my intention was just to replant 2 new city trees, one in front of each house. And that's where this is the bet. This is what, based on the parameters, this was what we thought was the best, to be honest.
Thank you. Mr. Wilder, again.
Yes, Mr. McIntosh, are you the owner of this property or just the agent?
I'm the owner.
Well, you are the owner. I see.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. You're aware of the conditions that the department has requested, cash in lieu of parkland? Is this
Correct.
existing dwelling removed, sewers capped, water service blanked, servicing plan being filed, an accessory structure demolished or relocated, grading and drainage plan, a notice on title of railway noise, a joint use and maintenance agreement, a noise attenuation study or design units with central air or notice on title for environmental noise. You're aware of that. And I think we've already discussed the the tree planting plan. What size of tree would you be planting in front of these 2 houses?
I propose, again, I'm not an expert in trees, but I would propose to do the same tree in front of each house. I guess semi-mature, so a decent size. I have no, presuming it can fit in the between the sidewalk and the street. Healthy size, I guess it was maple, if I'm not mistaken. So plant 2 maples.
You're also aware of the comments from Auto Hydro?
Yes.
Regarding the meters being installed a minimum of 1 meter clearance from the property line.
Yeah.
And then an electrical supply is required for the new created parcels of land. That's your cost.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'd like to reserve on this item and discuss this further after the end of the hearing. Everybody okay with that? All right, we're going to reserve our decision, and you will receive our decision within 10 days of today. Thank you very much for your input.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Have we had a chance to get Mr. Wildgrass on the phone regarding item 2, 158 Dunbarton?
Mr. Chair, we're still working on it.
Okay, we'll leave that then. Go on to the next one. Next item on the agenda is item number 4, 185 Preston Street. There's a minor variance to permit a principal entranceway to be located on the side facade facing the interior side yard. It is proposed to demolish the existing duplex dwelling and detached garage to construct a new 4-story mixed-use building. And I noticed that there's been a there's been a revised site plan, which we have, adjusting the rear bicycle shed, and that's according to the planning department. This with that change, the proposal is now fully compliant with the zoning bylaw. So the Ms. McQuigg, I believe, is the agent for the applicant.
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Chair.
Mr. McQuigg, if you could give us a brief presentation on what is now being proposed for this site.
Absolutely. I will.
Needs to be administered.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Belmar. I forgot again. Sheesh. You guys got to start sending in your postings so we don't have to do this. Oh well. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing and clearly visible and legible during the entirety of that time?
I affirm.
Okay, please proceed.
Just waiting for the presentation to, perfect, thank you very much. If you can proceed to the next slide. The subject site is located at 185 Preston Street on the east side of Preston and north of the Queensway. Next slide, please. This is an aerial taken from Geo Ottawa, which both describes the lot pattern of the area and also identifies that this site is designated Traditional Main Street in the City of Ottawa official plan, and it is zoned Traditional Main Street with an exception of 78 and a height maximum of 15. As I noted, or as was noted, this is a 4-story mixed-use building that is replacing a duplex that was existing on the site currently. Next slide, please. This is a closer view of what currently exists on the property at this time. Next slide, please. There is 7.65 meters of frontage, which is quite narrow for a traditional Main Street mixed-use lot, but it is typical of this area. The lot area is 234 square meters with a lot depth of 31 meters. Next slide, please. This is a depiction of the existing dwelling that is on the lot. You can note that other particular lots on this area are narrow as well. Next slide, please. This is an overall view of the context, but I will flip through again. Next slide, please. This is an artist rendering of what the proposed development would look like. It is currently gone through site plan control, and they are at the end of that process. This committee of adjustment application and subject minor variance are the sort of last piece of the puzzle to approve this project. As you can see in the rendering, there is an active entrance to the commercial space on the ground floor that is identified on the plans as well. Next slide. Next slide, please. I'm just trying to consider for the sake of time. Actually, if we can move to the next slide, I think that would be most relevant. So this is really a depiction of the reason why we need the variance. The section of the bylaw requires that non-residential as well as residential uses that are on a ground floor within the TM zone need to have their principal entrances facing the street. Because of the narrow depth of this lot, we have the commercial space with an active entrance facing the traditional main street. But again, because the narrow depth of the lot, the residential at the rear and also portion of that unit is within the basement, their principal entrance does have to face the interior side yard. As we noted in our submitted materials, because there is an active entrance facing the street, this does meet the intent and purpose of the zoning provision, and providing mixed use on this particular site and making the most efficient use of this site ensures that it's also consistent with or conform to the official plan and the intent and purpose of that as well. It's minor in nature because we do have that active entrance. The conditions that the city is looking for are being present. And it is a desirable use of this particular parcel of land given the zoning and the designation in place. I won't get into significant detail and I will leave time for questions as I am aware that no other comments have been submitted and the planning report demonstrates no concerns.
We have no other comments and the planning department is in support of the application. What's the width of that access to those residential units?
If you can go back one to the site plan on the presentation. I'm not sure if you're able to zoom in, but the width is 1.2 meters. And there is an easement that also captures the other side. So the full would likely be about 2.4.
So in total from the wall to the property line, you've got 2.4 meters?
The wall to the property line is 1.2, but the area noted in blue is an easement. And so there's a full walking space that's available of 2.4.
I'm just thinking furniture takes up space. And moving it in and out can be difficult if you don't have easy access. Mr. Wildman.
Just a point of clarification, of Ms. McQuaig, who's the easement in favor of?
That would be, I believe it is an easement shared between this parcel and the adjacent parcel for the purposes of access, not vehicular access, but pedestrian access for both parcels.
Right, thank you.
All right.
And through you, Mr. Chair, I would also note in the site plan control review, the 1.2 meters was identified as being sufficient for interior yard access at this location.
Yeah, but it's actually wider than that.
It is, yes, but in terms of the building to the property line.
So somebody thinks you can get a full-size couch down a 1.2 meter side yard and into a door.
Down the 2.4 meter easement, yes.
Yeah. You have to have what you've got plus the easement to be able to do that. All right. Okay. Any questions from members of the committee regarding this application? And we noticed that the application, there are no conditions being requested by the department. Prior to Ottawa's standard comments, clearances must be maintained. And I guess from right-of-way people, the private approach permits required for any new relocated or widened driveway. All right, with that said, all in favor of approving this application as amended. Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Project's approved. Next application on the agenda is item number 5, 370A and 370B Roosevelt Avenue. This is a consent to subdivide the property in 2 separate parcels of land to establish separate ownerships for the 2 semi-detached dwellings currently under construction. Each half of the semi-detached dwelling will contain a secondary dwelling unit. And the agent for this is Mr. or Mrs. Moan Jazeb. Are they there? Can't hear you. Still can't hear you. Nope. Bottom left corner, there's a,
Hi, can you hear
there we
me?
go. Okay, yeah, I can. For the record, could you please give us your name and address?
Okay, I can't hear you.
Can you hear us now?
Just give me a second.
Can you hear us now?
Perhaps, Mr. Chair, if someone were to type in a message to turn her volume up on her computer.
Yeah. What was that? Can you hear us now? Well, if someone can get in touch with this lady and just and walk her through how to get volume, so that we can have a discussion. What we'll do is we'll set this down until we have our audio issues resolved.
Yeah,
Okay. All right, we'll move to item 6 on the agenda.
Mr. Chair, Edward Wilgeris is, oh, no, he just left. Okay, sorry, I'll have to reach out to him again.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
It's all right. Item 6 on the agenda, Falsetto Homes, 568, 570, 566, 568, 568B, 570B, 572, and 572B Edison. This is a consent to subdivide the property into 4 separate parcels of land to establish separate ownerships for the 4 semi-detached dwellings currently under construction. Proposed to construct secondary dwelling units in the basement of each of these semi-detached dwellings. So the agent for the applicant is Mr. Kelly. Is he there?
I am.
Mr.
Good
Kelly,
afternoon.
good afternoon. For the record, your address, please.
Is 240 Michael Copeland Drive. That's Suite 200.
Okay, before we proceed, we'll have to go through the oath or solemn declaration. You solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing and clearly visible and legible during the entirety of that time.
I do swear.
All right. Okay, if you'd like to proceed, Mr. Kelly.
Sure. Again, Jeff Kelly from Novatech on behalf of our client.
Yep.
Just give a brief summary of the context. If the next slide, please.
That's fine. Yeah, we don't need a lot of detail. This is just a consent.
Yep. So the subject site is located in the Kitsippee ward on the east side of Edison Avenue. Subject site is an area bounded by Princeton Avenue to the north, Avondale Avenue to the south, Melbourne Avenue to the west, and Churchill Avenue north to the east.
Mm-hmm.
Next slide, please. The subject site is an interior lot having 25 meters of frontage along Edison Avenue and an area of 552.8 square meters. Subject site is zoned residential third density, subzone R in the City of Ottawa zoning bylaw. The provisions of the R3R subzone permit semi-detached dwellings on the subject site, and the site is currently being developed with two fully conforming semi-detached dwellings. My apologies. A previous consent application was approved in September of 2020 to create the 2 lots previously on the subject property. Next slide, please. So the subject applications before you propose to sever the existing lot into 4 lots. Severance application number 1 will create the northerly lot labeled as Part 1 on the draft reference plan before you. Part 1 will have a total lot area of 191.7 square meters, a lot depth of 30.67 meters, and a lot frontage of 6.25 meters on Edison Avenue. Next slide, please. Severance application number 2 will create the lot labeled as Part 2 on the draft reference plan identified in red as lands to be severed. Part 2 will have a total lot area of 191.7 square meters, a lot depth of 30.67 meters, and a lot frontage of 6.25 meters on Edison Avenue. Next slide, please. Severance application number 3 will create the lot labeled as Part 3 on the draft reference plan identified in red. Part 3 will have a total lot area of 191.75 square meters, a lot depth of 30.68 meters, and a lot frontage of 6.25 meters on Edison Avenue. Next slide, please. And the severance application number 4 will create the lot labeled as Part 4 on the draft reference plan identified in red. Part 4 will have a total lot area of 191.75 square meters, a lot depth of 30.68 meters, and a lot frontage of 6.25 meters on Edison Avenue. And just to go over a brief explanation of the rationale for the consent applications, the proposal does not necessitate the construction of new public infrastructure, including roads and services. A plan of subdivision is not required for the properly and orderly development of the municipality. And then under subsection 5124 of the Planning Act, the range of criteria to be considered for consent applications, just a brief summary. The proposed severance is within an urban area and has regard for matters of provincial interest. The proposed severance is not premature and is in line with the public interest. Severance application conforms to the official plan with regards to infill and intensification. Proposed severance will result in lots that fully conform with the R3R provisions for lot width and lot area for semi-detached dwellings. The proposed severance at 566 and 570 Edison Avenue represents good land use planning. Thank you for the opportunity, and any questions we'll be happy to answer.
You were aware of Bell Canada's comments regarding the 3 meter wide strip to measure 1.2 meter either side of the aerial facilities?
We are aware, yes.
Okay. Any cost associated with registration be the responsibility of the landowner, which is standard stuff. And comments from right-of-way people that private approach permits required for any new relocated or widened driveway. Okay. Conditions that the department is asking for is a servicing plan. You notice on title of flood risk, and I think Mr. Wildman has some questions on that. A joint use and maintenance agreement and a party well to meet building code. You're aware of those as well, I take it?
We're aware.
Okay. I think Mr. Wildman, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Just real quick, when you look at the way the condition is worded from Bell, it says a 3 meter wide strip to measure 1.2 meters on either side of the aerial facilities. It's strangely worded because 1.2 on either side is 2.4. So can you tell me how you're achieving that? Are you giving 2.4 or are you giving 3? And what is it they want?
If I may, Mr. Chair, it's Murray Chown. I appreciate the comment that the request from Bell is unclear. Obviously, in the process of preparing a reference plan to show that easement to Bell, we'll have to resolve it with them. I'm anticipating that the committee will be looking for a condition, that condition be cleared by Bell. We'll have to work it out with them. I would note it would be helpful to us that if the committee would, in approving the applications, at the same time would approve the creation of easements in favor of Bell to fulfill that condition. But to answer the question, we're going to have to resolve that with Bell.
Right, because it is worded strangely. You certainly have the 1.2 on either side, which if they wanted that would work fine. 3 meters is odd though, because you're not going to give an easement in the air. So it's just strangely worded. You know, I think I'm comfortable knowing that there'll be a condition to satisfy Bell, so I'm comfortable with that. I was just curious, excuse me, what they meant by that. Second question is the notice on title for flood risk. I assume you're connecting to a separated storm sewer, not a combined storm sewer?
I actually can't swear to the answer to that question, but I'm reasonably confident it's an independent storm sewer. We're not that familiar with the permit drawings for this project, but I'm reasonably confident that it's connecting to a storm sewer. I'm not sure if staff might be able to answer that question for you.
What was the next question?
Yeah, that was my next one. Just because, you know, I get the intent of the notice with respect to the way it's being designed, but it would mean a whole different thing if it were a combined sewer. Does staff know the answer to that?
Yes, Mr. Wildman. The engineering team imposed the condition and they were reviewing the grading plans. So I don't have a definite answer for that. Apologies.
I'm sorry I can't give you 100% confidence, but we've done an awful lot of projects in this neighborhood, and my understanding is that they are separated sewers.
Okay, fair enough. You don't have a plan, would you? Your grading plan isn't?
No, as I said, we weren't involved in the building permits for these projects.
Okay, so we'll cross our fingers and go with it, I guess.
Actually, my years on committee, a notice on title of flood risk is news to me in a neighborhood like this. You don't have depressed driveways, correct?
Once again, I understand the condition is there because they are depressed driveways.
They are depressed driveways?
That's my understanding of the condition.
Okay.
That was my understanding as well, which I can understand it, but I think the chair is correct. It is a new condition. At least I've not seen it.
So if that applies to the driveways, I can understand it. And if you've got separated sewers, Mr. Wildman, there'd be no issue, correct?
Well, a lot less issue in terms of getting what you're getting into your garage, should there be a flood. So,
exactly.
You know, I think I'll go with Mr. Chown. He should be relatively familiar, and if he's telling me it's separated, then I'm not too concerned.
Okay. Any questions to the other members of the panel? No. So the easement required with Bell, you guys will work out with Bell. Hopefully, when you do receive approval from Bell, we'd appreciate a copy of the wording of that easement request, the final version, if you wouldn't mind. Yes, I think several of us are a little confused with this. Anyway, all right, we have an application for severance before us. I think we've resolved the issues. All in favor of granting this consent? Application's granted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Edward Wilgris is now on the joining us.
Okay.
He's on the phone.
All right. Thanks very much. All right. Back to item 2 on the agenda. This is 158 Barton Court, and it's a minor variance to permit an increased deck projection into a rear yard. And it's proposed to demolish the existing deck in order to reconstruct a new similar deck in its place. And there has been an amendment to the variance that's resulting from this. It now reads, the owners require the authority of the committee for a minor variance in the zoning bylaw to permit an increased projection of 3.9 meters, not 2.47 meters, or 5.73 meters from the rear lot line, whereas the bylaw permits a maximum projection of 2 meters, or 6.23 meters from the rear lot line. So, Mr. Wilgris, you are the owner and you are the applicant. You are the agent.
Yes, I am.
Right. And before we begin, we have to do the oath or declaration. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing and clearly visible and legible during the entirety of that time.
Yes.
Could you please just briefly explain your request for variance?
The main reason is because the existing deck that was there, we took that out and reconstructed the new deck. And as a result, once the permit people found out about it, they said, you've got to apply for a variance, a minor variance, which I've done. And the main reason we wanted a larger deck, or the same size deck actually, as it originally was there, was because of health issues. My wife has got MS and I've got a heart condition. So if we want to go outside, we can't walk down the steps that easily because I get short of breath.
Yeah, but this deck is simply replacing what already was there.
Exactly. Yes.
There's no difference in size.
No.
He just got caught by the building permit process.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks very much, Mr. Hamilton from the department. You have a comment?
Yes, just to confirm, I believe there were slight changes to the deck in terms of height and the building elements on it, which could not consider it to be a reinstatement of what was currently there. So it is considered a new deck.
But it's still the dimensions are still the same as far as setbacks are concerned. Okay, because that's what we're dealing with here is setbacks. All right. Any questions for the applicant on this? No. All right. All in favor of granting the application as applied for? All right. Your application's granted. Good luck with your project. I believe you already built it though, right?
Yes, we haven't got the railings out. We stopped the railings.
All right.
Put those up. All right, that's great.
You know, you really should have approval before you proceed with construction.
Yes. Yes, we should have. You're right. But
yeah, you may want to consider that the next time you make a change.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Thanks very much.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. Next application.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Goalie should be on the call as well.
Miss
Golachar or for Roosevelt. Item 5.
Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. Good. All right. Hang on one second here.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
1 second, Mr. Golachar. Hang on. All right. Just to start again.
I just want to make sure I'm heard. I apologize for the.
That's all right. We'll start again. This is a 370A, 370B Roosevelt. This is a consent to subdivide the property into 2 separate parcels of land in order to establish separate ownership for 2 semi-detached dwellings currently under construction. Each half of the semi-detached dwelling will contain a secondary dwelling unit. So, Ms. Golachar, you are now here.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
All right, and we'll have to administer the oath. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing and clearly visible and legible during the entirety of that time?
I do.
Okay. So if you could very briefly explain exactly what this is just a simple consent, correct?
Yes, it is a simple consent. We basically are building two semis next to each other. It's for my mom and my brother, and for us and my brother, basically.
Yeah.
And we just like to subdivide the lot.
Okay.
I think it meets all the zoning requirements in terms of the area. So.
Yeah, this is just a severance application. You're aware of Hydro's comments?
Yes, I am, and I had already passed, and I had submitted their consent on that we met all the requirements with the file.
So the meters are in the right location. Right away, people will have said that a private approach permit is required for any new relocated or widened driveway. You're aware of that?
That has already been submitted.
Okay. All right. All right. And the department has 8 conditions. You're aware of these: cash in lieu of parkland, an improved servicing plan, the accessory structures to be demolished, a notice on title of susceptibility to flooding. I'll get back to that. A notice on title of railway noise, a joint use and maintenance agreements, a notice on title of environmental noise, and the party wall constructed to meet building code.
Yes.
Okay. The notice on title of susceptibility to flooding, why is that there, out of curiosity? Perhaps Ms.
I'm not sure.
Ms. McCullough?
Yes, Mr. Chair. It's again with regards to the driveways.
They're sloped.
Yes.
Okay. Is this a new condition coming out of the department? Because really, we haven't seen this.
Honestly, I haven't seen it as well before this hearing, but I suppose it's a standard condition.
I do have a question, if you don't mind.
Please.
I understand 8% slope. It says between 8 to 12. Is 12% slope acceptable? I was under the impression that it's maximum 8%.
Ms. McCullough, if you can answer the applicant.
Yeah. Currently, your site plan indicates 8% slope, which is permitted according to zoning bylaw. Everything about that is not permitted.
Yeah.
It does say it shall not exceed 12%, and that's why I'm asking.
That's a private approach by law, yes. They review the application separately.
Oh, I see, okay. And your condition is which number, if you don't mind? I'm sorry.
The notice on title is condition number 4.
Number 4, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a simple consent. We've read through the conditions. The applicant has conformed to Hydro's requirements. She's been in touch with right away. All in favor of the application. Oh, Mr. Walton has a question.
Yeah, Chair, just for Ms. Wakula, you don't know whether it's a separated storm sewer or a combined sewer?
Unfortunately not.
Okay, could I suggest that with this new type of condition coming through that we get some clarity from engineering staff when they make that request, because it means 2 different things. One is you're going to get stormwater in your garage, and one is you're going to get sanitary sewage and stormwater in your garage. So it would be nice to know whether it's a separated storm sewer or not.
Okay, I can follow up with you regarding that.
But just going forward, I think it would be really helpful for us because we're being asked to impose a condition with no background. So it would be helpful if there were one sentence to just clarify that.
Whether this is because of a potential sewer issue or it's simply because of a driveway grade.
I imagine it's because of the driveway grade.
Yeah.
May I speak for a second? I think because the houses are under one application, the separate sewer system is for each house. They wanted confirmation on that. And that was raised as a building permit, and we satisfied that condition.
Yeah, that's a different matter, ma'am. It's the notice on title regarding susceptibility of flooding that we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Mr. Chair, thank you. I just think we need, going forward, if we can get that 1 or 2 sentences just to clarify going forward, I would feel a lot more comfortable imposing such a condition.
Yeah, because I don't believe that we have this in our standard conditions package.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Keeler. All right. All in favor of granting the consent? That's applied for. Your consent's granted. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Would I be hearing from the city on this, or?
Pardon me? You'll be getting the notice of decision from us to confirm what we just discussed.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bear with me, folks. Second, folks. The next application we'll deal with is item 8 on the agenda, 361 Winston Avenue. The minor variance is to permit a front-facing garage, a reduced interior side yard area, and an increased garage projection into the front yard. It is proposed to demolish the existing dwelling, accessory structure, and 3 sheds to construct a new 2-story detached dwelling with an attached garage. And the applicant's agent for this is Mr. West. Mr. West, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair.
Your address for the record, please.
This is 240 Michael Copeland Drive, Suite 200.
The planning department is not in support of this application. They are opposed to the application as the department.
Mr. Chair, please administer the oath.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Sorry, Mr. West, my mistake. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing and clearly visible and legible during the entirety of that time?
I do swear.
Okay, so if the planning department would like to articulate their objections to this application, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff do not have any concerns with the variances to reduce the interior side yard area. We recognize that explicitly the numbers are not meeting the provision, but there is additional area met elsewhere. We are opposed to the variances to permit the garage where the streetscape character analysis does not permit it. We do believe that it varies from the intention of the zoning bylaw and impacts the streetscape. This combined with the projecting garage further than what is permitted under the zoning bylaw create a massing that has a significant impact on the street.
I note that this application was adjourned and excuse me, a variance was added to the original 3, which reads to permit the attached garage to project 1.5 meters closer to the front lot line than the principal entrance to the dwelling, whereas the bylaw requires that the garage or carport may not be more than 0.6 meters closer to the front lot line than the principal entrance to the dwelling. So that's the amended variance request. So, Mr. West, please proceed.
Absolutely. I'll just ask the coordinator to please place the presentation up. Thank you. So the applications in front of you this afternoon, as we've just mentioned, are minor variance applications on the property miscellaneously known as 361 Winston. The subject property is located in Ward 15, Kitchissippi. Specifically, subject property is located in Westboro. The subject property is the north of Madison Avenue, south of Wilmont Avenue, to the east of Roosevelt Avenue, and to the west of Churchill Avenue North. The subject property is a corner lot with approximately 15 meters of frontage on Winston Avenue and approximately 20 meters of frontage along Whitby Avenue. The subject property has an area of approximately 305 meters squared. The streetscape character analysis was submitted to the city on the 4th of May, 2021. The results of this analysis indicate the dominant character groups are ABA, and this has been confirmed by municipal staff for both the frontages, they're ABA. And the first A stands for garage or carport attached to the front facade of the dwelling is not permitted. That's one of the reasons why we're here. B, a single or shared driveway is permitted. It's what we have. A principal entranceway is located on the front facade of the dwelling unit and faces the street. It's what we have. So the slide in front of you, I'd like to bring your attention to the right side of the screen, which shows the site plan. So the applications for minor variance propose to facilitate the development of a single detached dwelling with an attached garage on this property. The dwelling is proposed to be 2 stories in height. The principal entrance will be facing Winston Avenue. An individual single car driveway will provide access from Winston Avenue to the attached garage. And I would like to point the committee to the unique shape or orientation of the lot. The lot is not a typical regularly shaped rectangular lot. Rather, it's tilted on its side. And this tilt forms the basis for 2 of the minor variance applications that we're seeking, as they're technical in nature. If I could ask the coordinator to switch to the next slide, please. Thank you. So the slide in front of you highlights the required variances. As the committee may have seen with similar applications, variance A and B are functionally the same, but the zoning bylaw repeats the requirements for garages to comply with the streetscape character analysis in both sections 139 and 140 of the zoning bylaw. So in the abundance of caution, we've applied for 2 variances, which effectively mean the same thing. Variance C seeks to permit a reduced interior side yard due to the unique shape of the lot. And variance D was a variance that was identified by municipal staff in the previous submission. The application was recirculated to add variance D. And similar to variance C, this variance is required due to the unique shape of the lot. If you ask the coordinator to switch to the next slide, please. Thank you. So the slide in front of you right now is a rendering of the proposed development. The proposed single car garage has been designed to blend with the front facade, and the massing of the building draws attention to the house instead of the garage. The coloring chosen for the garage as well as the building blends quite well. The glazing of the large windows draws attention to the front facade of the building and is consistent with good urban design. The proposed design provides generous green space, as you can see by the clear amount of greens on the screen. The architectural style of the building has been chosen to blend well with other houses in the neighborhood. We believe that the proposed development fits well with the character of the neighborhood, regardless of the results of the streetscape character analysis. And this is abundantly clear when reviewing the number of positive comments that our client received from his neighbors and the community association. Simply put, it's our opinion that the proposed development is an architecturally pleasant building, and this is mirrored by the support our client received on the design of the building. If you could switch to the next slide, please. Thank you. So the slide in front of you shows who submitted comments on this application. Just to list them off, our client has received letter of support from 367 Whitby, 352 Winston, 355 Winston, 477 Tweedsmuir, which I note isn't actually shown on the image in front of you, 353 Winston, 383 Winston, 378 Winston, 374 Winston, 382 Whitby, 364 Winston, 360 and 367 Winston. We've also received a letter of support from the Westboro Community Association. So in total, this is a grand total of 10 letters of support received from immediate neighbors. The majority of these neighboring properties that provided support were properties that were located within the streetscape character analysis. So all letters of support speak to the proposed development being consistent with the character of the neighborhood, regardless of the results of that streetscape character analysis. Our client, as I mentioned, our client has also received a letter of support from the Westboro Community Association on the design of the building. I would like to quote the Westboro Community Association. Quote, "We have raised this particular application with the board members of the Westboro Community Association. Not one member has objected. As our board members pointed out, there are other garages on the street and in the surrounding streets, and there are even a few double garages. This new home is sensitive to the environment and makes best use of an awkward corner lot. It would be unfortunate if these new owners had to wipe the slate clean and redesign their retirement home. We hope you approve the variances." So in summary, 10 different owners with 10 different types of garages have offered their support for the proposed variance. The Westboro Community Association Board of Members raised no concerns and offered support. It is abundantly clear the proposed development fits in with the surrounding neighborhood due to the clear positive feedback our clients receive on the architectural style of the building. I would also like to point out that we've received no letters of opposition for this application. So now we'll speak to the rationale for the minor variances. The first test for minor variance is that the general intent and purpose of the official plan is maintained. You can keep on the previous slide, thank you. The subject property is designated general urban area on Schedule B. The purpose of the general urban area is to permit, quote, "the development of a full range and choice of housing types to meet the needs of all ages, incomes, and life circumstances." Further, section 2.1 of the official plan states that, quote, "infill and redevelopment will be compatible with the existing context or planned function of the area and contribute to the diversity of housing, employment, or services in the area." So the requested minor variance facilitates development of a detached dwelling within the general urban area designation. There are no variances being requested with respect to building height, front yard setback, side yard setbacks, or rear yard setbacks. The proposed building is been designed to be compatible with the desirable characteristics of the neighborhood, as we've seen from the letters of support. The proposed front-facing attached garage will not detract from the streetscape. The second test for a minor variance is that the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw is maintained. The subject property is zoned residential third density, subzone I, R3I, under the City of Ottawa zoning bylaw. The requested minor variance facilitates a detached dwelling, which is a permitted use under the R3 zoning. With respect to recent amendments to the zoning bylaw, changes were made on October 14th, 2020, and these amendments to the zoning bylaw required that the streetscape character analysis examine the location of garages. The new staff report recommending approval of the zoning amendment detailed that in general, mature neighborhoods consisted of a driveway on the interior side of the building with a garage either in the rear or side yard. The staff report for the new zoning bylaw states, and I quote, infill on narrow lots, most notably the creation of two 7.5 meter wide lots through severance to enable a semi-detached dwelling has consisted mostly of front-facing attached garage. Where the driveways are located towards the middle of the building, there's a tendency to create the appearance of a double wide driveway. At any rate, rather than a front facade dominated by habitable living space facing towards the street, the facade of the house becomes oriented towards accommodating of vehicle storage first. So in reading through that staff report, the intent of regulating the location of garages under the new streetscape character analysis was to avoid situations where infill development, most notably on 7.5 meter wide lots, resulted in the garage dominating the facade of the house, in particular developments where garages and driveways are located towards the middle of the building. This is most notable with semi-detached infills. The intent of the streetscape character provisions for the location of the garage was to avoid the streetscape being dominated by garages on narrow lots and focus more on the residential building. The subject lot is over 15 meters wide, which is more than double the width of the lots of concern in the staff report. The garage, the proposed development, is located on the side of the building with generous green space on the opposite corner. The requested minor variances are consistent with the intent of the new streetscape character provisions. I'll now speak to the third test, third test that considered desirable for the use of the land. So variances A and B, which speak towards the front-facing attached garage. The proposed minor variances for the garage are considered desirable as it provides a legal enclosed parking space for cars. The garage entrance is designed to complement the design of the building and improves the building facade rather than detract from it. Having cars parked in a well-designed garage has a more positive impact on the streetscape than having them parked in an open parking space in the interior side yard. I'll get to this later in my presentation, but an attached garage would be visually unappealing and would take away from the green space in many of the area. If I ask the coordinator to switch to the next slide, please. Thank you. So I'll now speak to variance C. So with respect to the third test of desirability, variance C requests to slightly alter the required interior yard area. The area of the required interior yard is about 13 square meters and is shown by both the green and the red hatching on the image in front of you. The proposed interior yard is 8 square meters and is shown in just the green. So the red on the image is what we're missing. As I've touched on briefly, the proposed interior yard is shaped irregularly since part of the building footprint is located within the area required for the interior yard. The proposed building provides a rear yard setback of 2.48 meters on the east side at the narrowest and increases to about 4 meters at the widest point. This setback, both the 2.8 and the 4 meters, greatly exceeds the minimum required rear yard setback of 1.2 meters for a corner lot. So this allows for both the functional interior yard area and a rear yard area, and this mitigates any impact of having reduced interior yard area. So because of the increased rear yard setback, an additional area of about 10.5 square meters, which is shown on the right side of the screen, is provided as additional amenity area for the dwelling unit, bringing the total to 18.5 square meters. And this is well in excess of the required 13 square meters if you go just through the interior yard area. So maintaining the regular shape of the proposed dwelling improves both the functionality of the site and the functionality of the interior of the dwelling. I'll touch briefly while this is on the screen with respect to the fourth test. This variance is required is this reduction in area is compensated by increasing the provided rear yard setback. As you can see, the change in the interior yard is imperceivable and has no effect on neighboring properties. This reorganization of the area allows a more functional interior yard and rear yard area. If I could ask the coordinator to switch to the next slide, please. Thank you. So we'd also like to touch on the as of right permitted parking layout for the subject property. The image in front of you is a rendering as to what the parking layout would look like without any need for variances. Parking is located externally from the building in the interior yard. Parking in this location highlights cars. As in, when you view this image in front of you, your eyes are immediately drawn to the car parked outside. Under the proposed application, cars can be parked within the garage. On the image in front of you, cars will always be visible from the street. The image in front of you is permitted as of right, but is less compatible with the street than the proposed application. With respect to desirability, the proposed design is much more desirable and consistent with the neighborhood than the as of right design shown in front of you. If I could ask the coordinator to switch to the next slide, please. Thank you. Just going to the streetscape character analysis. The streetscape character analysis examined several lots in close proximity to the subject property. And out of the 20 properties along Winston Avenue included in the streetscape character analysis, 6 properties have front-facing attached garage and 14 do not. As I previously touched on with the staff report for changes to the zoning bylaw, the intent of the zoning amendment was to make the front facade more dwelling focused instead of garage focused. The design of the proposed dwelling meets this intent, as the garage is designed to blend with the architectural design of the building and instead of it being a prominent feature. The image in front of you has several examples on the surrounding streets where the garage is front facing and attached. So just quickly to go through them, starting from the very top, from the top left and continuing right. The garage on 3 Winston blends with the black trim, but also worth noting that the proposed development only has a single car driveway, whereas this is wider than that. The garage at 378 Winston, I would say, blends in with the building. The garage at 373 Winston has, I would note that there are 2 driveways on this property. The same with the garages at 351 Whitby, and I'd note that there are also 2 driveways on this property. The garages at 359 Whitby are much larger than the proposed development with more hard surface area. And the garage at 366 Madison has been designed to blend in with the facade of the building. So the proposed garage on the subject property has been designed to blend in with the building. The front facade of the proposed development is clearly highlighted, much to the intent of the zoning bylaw. There's clearly multiple examples of front-facing attached garages within the neighborhood, as shown on the image in front of you. The proposed minor variance to permit a well-designed front-facing attached garage will have a positive visual impact on the street. If I could ask the coordinator to switch to the next slide, please. Thank you. So just to finish off, I'll now speak to variance D. So with respect to the third test, which is desirability, the variance for the garage being closer to the front lot line is technical in nature due to the way the house is positioned on the irregularly shaped corner lot. The existing, as I previously mentioned, the existing lot is not a standard rectangular lot, rather it has a tilt to it. The proposed dwelling is positioned parallel to the interior side lot line with the front wall at an angle from the front lot line. The image in front of you is a zoomed in of the corner, which helps illustrate this. So although the garage is only 0.6 meters proud of the principal entrance, it is technically 1.15 meters closer to the front lot line. The orientation of the proposed dwelling, and in particular, the configuration of the front wall, allows the proposed development to better frame the corner of Winston Avenue and Whitby Avenue. The principal entrance remains the focus of the front facade, which meets the intent of the zoning bylaw. It's also worth noting that the eastern side of the building extends well past the required front yard setback. With respect to the fourth test, minor, variance D is to permit a garage door to be 1.15 meters closer to the front lot line of the principal entrance. This allows for a functional and well-designed building. The relationship between the garage and the principal entrance is consistent with the requirement of the zoning bylaw. The principal entrance is designed to be the focal point of the front facade. The requested variance has no impact on the streetscape. The relationship between the attached garage and the principal entrance is consistent with the requirements of the zoning bylaw. Finally, the dwelling is designed to highlight the principal entrance. I'll ask you to switch to the next slide, please. So in conclusion, I'd just like to end off by stating the proposed development on 361 Winston Avenue maintains the general intent and purpose of the City of Ottawa official plan and zoning bylaw. Furthermore, the requested variances are considered desirable for the use of the land and are minor in nature. It's our opinion that the proposed development represents good land use planning. I'd also like to point out to the committee, we've had a further conversation with municipal staff on the condition that they had suggested in their staff report. Municipal staff have confirmed that they are fine with removing this condition, as it will be satisfied through the appropriate building/demolition permit process, and we don't need to impose additional work on committee staff. And I'll let Mr. Hamilton speak to that if need be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. West. Which condition are you referring to?
I believe there was only the one condition. I'd have to pull up the report really quickly to double check.
Oh, my overview sheet has no conditions. So I just have comments from I have basic comments from the planning department and Hydro Ottawa, clearances to be maintained, and the standard stuff from the right-of-way people regarding private approach permits. But we don't have any conditions that we're being asked to. Mr. Hamilton, is there a condition that's been missed on the materials I have?
I do not believe so. I believe the staff report initially had one condition requesting proof of demolition of the accessory structures and the dwelling. I have confirmed with Mr. West that we will not need to impose this because it will be monitored through a demolition permit and building permits. So it would be correct to not have conditions on this minor variance.
Great, that's fine. Any questions and or comments from the panel? We also have the Westboro Community Association on the speakers list. Ms. Mitchell, I believe she's there.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak today. You can hear me okay?
Yeah, could I just for the record have your address, please?
Yes, I live at 485 Richmond Road.
Okay,
Thank
please
you.
proceed.
Thank you. Yeah, the Westboro Community Association sent in a letter of support for this project because we feel it contributes a great deal to the neighborhood. As Mr. West has commented, the site is very awkward and hard to work with. And we totally appreciate the effort that the owner and the designers have put into this. We think it will enhance the neighborhood. We don't think it will be a problem. The issue with the garage, most of the time we are absolutely very happy with the support that the city gives us in the preventing snout houses. We don't want garages with houses on the back in our neighborhood. It doesn't fit. This is not a snout house. This is not a big garage in the front or with a big projection in the front. And we feel that the way it's been designed, it makes it appropriate to the neighborhood. If you walk around that neighborhood, there are many, many garages. There are double garages. It surprises me that those weren't considered in the streetscape. I don't quite understand that, because when you walk around, there's not just, maybe they're not perhaps within the scope that the city looks at, but there's even double garages tacked onto the side. There's a great deal of construction and development going on in that neighborhood, and to have an attractive, green, single-family home is a relief to the community, quite frankly. And that's really all I have to say. We are just 100% in support, and I hope that the fact that every single neighbor and we in the community association support the project will tell you something about how we feel about it. Thank you.
We have the comments from you folks and your neighbors in our in our package, and there are no objections to this, frankly. Yep. And as far as streetscape character analysis is concerned, yes, the broader neighborhood may have a lot of front-facing garages, but the scope of the investigation is narrow. Only X number of properties on either side or around the corner from. So anyway, that's just the way the planning department designed their tool. Any comments from the members of the panel on this application? Ms. Sharon, Ms. Oak Sharon, you had a question or a comment?
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Novatech for the excellent presentation and for showing us not only the current design, but the compliant design. Having that additional information really helps. Thank you.
So I'd like to thank them for providing us with elevations. Anyway, all right. We have a slightly amended application before us, adding variance D to the original 3. All in favor of granting this application as amended? Your application is granted. Good luck with your project.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Okay. The next application on the agenda is item number 9, 556 Golden Avenue. It's a minor variance to permit reduced rear yard setback and rear yard area for the construction of a screened-in porch at the rear of the existing detached dwelling. Note that the planning department has no objections. Hydro is fine, Rogers is fine, and there are no conditions on this application. The applicant's agent is Yasmin Klug. Is she there?
Yes. Good afternoon. I'm the owner and the applicant.
All right. We have to go through the solemn declaration first. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing and clearly visible and legible during the entirety of that time?
I affirm.
Okay. If you'd like to give us a brief explanation of your request for relief, please.
Yes, absolutely. So I live at 556 Golden Avenue, and my application is for 2 minor variances. It's for a proposal for a screened-in porch at the rear of our property. So our property is located on Golden Avenue. We're one house south of Princeton Avenue on the west side. And basically, we have a deck right now on our back property, and we just want to change part of that deck into a screened-in porch, and it would extend a little bit further and then deeper into the property, and thus the reason for the minor variances. So basically, we have a small backyard space. We're just trying to optimize that space. We have a well-respected architect, Lara McKendrick, who's done the drawings for us to be in keeping with the architecture of the house and in keeping with the neighborhood. Next slide, please. So the 2 variances requested is the setback to which is reduced from the 8.4 meters to 3.6 meters, and then the reduction in the area of the backyard from 25% to 12.5%.
And that was the additional variance that was.
That's correct.
That's why. Okay.
Next slide, please. So with respect to the 4 tests, these variances are minor. They really will not be adversely impacting the neighboring properties. The project is at the back of our house. It's not visible to the street. It's quite a small project. As I mentioned, it's matching the style of the house. We do have one of the original houses on the street, and we've worked very hard to keep the style of the house in keeping. The impact visually is very limited, very small for the neighbors. We are surrounded by 4 neighbors, 1 south, 1 north, and 2 to the west. And all of them actually have trees and sheds and a pool shed and a garage blocking their view. So really visually, there's very little impact for them. Doesn't change their sunlight, doesn't change their privacy. They're all aware of the project. They're either supportive or have no comments on it. And we have had an arborist come and give a report for the 1 distinctive tree we have in our backyard. Next slide, please. So in terms of desirability, I kind of leaned a little bit in terms of our desirability, but it does make for a more enjoyable backyard space. It's quite small. The trees make it kind of buggy, and having a screened-in porch would be really nice use for the house. It would optimize the house, the value of the house, improves it without any negative impact to the neighbors or to the neighborhood. Next slide, please. As I understand the general intent and the purpose of the zoning bylaw, we do not seem to be going outside of the intent or purpose. We're just modifying, slightly expanding our usage in our backyard. And as I mentioned, neighborhood is supportive, no change in footprint beyond that piece of the deck, which I will show you a couple of pictures at the end, so you have a sense of what this will actually propose to be look like. My next slide, please. And then with respect to the official plan, as I understand it, it's really just upgrading the house. It's improving it. It makes best use of our backyard. As I mentioned, small, lots of trees around it will be a very nice addition to this house. And if we go to the next couple of slides, as we go through them, they'll show you the actual pictures. So this is probably the best picture, this first slide. But if you look at the piece on the back of the house where there's an open deck, that's the deck that we actually currently have at the moment with the 3 skylights. It extends partway into where this new screened-in porch that you can see, which is the larger piece. It extends into that right now. And so we're going to be adding to that space and then projecting towards the back of the backyard. If you go to the next slide, you can see an overhead view, which gives you an idea of how the it's been reduced and then the distance to the property line. And then the next slide after that is a view. If we go to the next slide. This is a view from the north of the property. So the neighbors who are at the north, this is what they would be visualizing from their side. And then the next slide will be a view from the south of the property. So the other neighbors from that side. So in fact, if anything, it actually improves everybody's privacy because we won't be sitting outside quite so much, but inside this screened-in area. And as mentioned, it's in keeping with the architecture. I think it will be a very nice addition, and I hope you'll agree to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your presentation, any comments, questions from the members of the panel? Okay. So this application was adjourned on October 6th to add variance B to permit a reduced rear yard area of 12.5%, whereas the zoning bylaw requires a minimum rear yard area of 25%.
Yes.
There are no conditions. Like I said, the comments from the planning departments in support. There's no comments from either Hydro or Rogers or any other agencies. All right. All in favor of granting this application as amended? Good luck with your project. Your application is granted.
Thank you very much.
Very well. We'll now deal with item 10 on the agenda. It's 332 Somerset East. This has been adjourned twice, and we're back for the third go around on this application. This is an application for minor variances to permit a reduced lot area, rear yard setback, rear yard area, and rear yard soft landscaping area. It's proposed to demolish the existing 2-story dwelling and construct a new 3-story residential apartment building with 4 dwelling units. And excuse me, revised plans on October the 18th included changes which remove windows, change window placement to increase privacy in the rear yard, move bicycle parking and amenity space for additional rear yard privacy. And they don't have any impacts on the variances requested. The agent for this application is Daniela Wiesman. Is she there?
For clarification, I'm actually the agent, Jessica.
Oh, Mr. O, sorry.
No
I'm reading the
problem.
wrong part.
Daniela is the.
I'm not
designer
reading
for
the
the
top. I'm not reading the top of the list. I think I need new glasses. Anyway, we'll have to go. Let's do the oath first, and then we'll move on. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing and clearly visible and legible during the entirety of the time?
I affirm.
Okay. All right. The planning department is now satisfied with this application, I'm assuming?
That is correct, Mr. Chair. We do not have any concerns.
Okay, so you've received all the information you needed. All right.
Yes.
All right. Ms. Dello, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So just to provide some added clarification, there has been, since our most recent adjournment, there's been continued and ongoing discussions with the planning department, counselor's office, neighbors, and with Mr. Hamilton. So through those discussions, we've been able to actually remove 3 of the 4 variances. The plans were filed yesterday. I do apologize again for the late nature, but it just took quite a bit of time to get clarifications on zoning through the city. It just took time to make those adjustments. So with those updates, we have now eliminated variances B, C, and D, and those are for all of the yard setback, yard area, and soft landscape area requirements. And the only minor variance remaining would be for the reduction of lot area to permit 252.82 square meters, whereas 300 square meters is provided or required, sorry. Okay. So with that, I'll just ask the coordinators to place my presentation materials on the screen, please. So as you know, this is the site located at 332 Somerset Street East. This is a rectangular interior lot located on the south side of Somerset in Sandy Hill. Sandy Hill is a primarily residential neighborhood with a mix of locally oriented commercial uses, but predominantly characterized by low-rise dwellings in a variety of ages, sizes, and building typology. Along this area of Somerset Street East, there are several low-rise buildings in a range of styles and sizes. There's a mix of uses, including residential and commercial, restaurant, service, or retail uses as well. This neighborhood is in close proximity to various schools, parks, the downtown core, as well as transit. Next slide, please. So as previously noted, this proposal is to demolish the existing duplex dwelling and construct a new low-rise 3-story apartment building in its place with 4 dwelling units. This is a permitted use in the R4 UB zoning, and this application is presently going through the site plan control process. So again, I had previously mentioned, but through consultation with the neighbors as well as counselor's office and with confirmation from city planning staff and waste management services, we were able to remove the exterior waste storage room, which was the trigger for the required minor variances. And we were able to remove this and place waste storage within the interior of the principal building footprint, which has resulted in the removal of 3 of those required variances, with the only remaining variance being the reduction in lot area of approximately 47 meters squared. The site,
just out of curiosity, how far along in the site plan process have you proceeded?
So we have submitted our second round of review. The comments are outstanding just based on the outcome of the Committee of Adjustment discussions. So based on this iteration of plans, there will be some work to be done to update the civil materials, and that is ongoing. However, the site plan control planner has been kept apprised of the entire situation thus forward, and he's comfortable that there won't be substantial changes based on these plans now.
You don't anticipate any further variances associated with this process?
Correct, yes.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. So again, this site now, with the removal of the waste storage building, it fully complies with the zoning requirements in terms of front, side, and rear yard setbacks, soft landscaping areas, and so forth. Though deficient in lot area, it does comply with the lot width requirements. It's just the depth of these existing lots is a bit more shallow than what would be typically required per today's zoning to permit the low-rise apartment use. The front yard is equipped with planting beds and soft landscaping, as well as a new street tree. The rear yard contains 6 bicycle parking spaces, which does exceed zoning requirements. I just will note that I did send, it has no bearing on the actual variance application itself, but through a comment from Jeff Nadeau, the site plan review planner, we had revisited the orientation of the bicycle rack just to improve some circulation. So we've now rotated the bicycle parking. The actual layout of the patio pavers shown in the rear yard has remained unchanged. So I did file that for committee's information, but we anticipate that that will be acceptable from the city's perspective through site plan. Okay. Again, so in terms of rear yard amenity space, per the request of councillor's office, we've incorporated a picnic table as well as barbecue for future residents to make a more usable amenity area space. And as well, there's going to be privacy fencing along the interior and rear side yards, the interior side yards and rear yard for added privacy and buffering. So I'll just turn to the next slide, please, which shows the rendering of the building within its context, as well as the front and side elevations. So as you'll see in the top left corner with the rendering, the materiality is a mix of red brick and wood paneling, which is complementary and compatible with the surrounding context. The roof line as well will be in line with the existing dwelling located to the east of the building. It's the proposed height, the total height is actually less than the zoning permission, which is 11 meters, and we're proposing 10.5 meters. Referring to the side west elevation, this is where the removal of windows and narrowing of windows comes into play. So through discussions with the neighboring property owner, Ms. Porter, who's on the call, she and I had at length discussions regarding these window placements. So we agreed to remove the windows that were at the upper stories closest to the rear of the building. And we've pushed the remaining windows as far as possible towards the front lot line to ensure that there's as minimal as possible, if any, overlook concerns onto her property. These windows have also been raised, and they're as small as they can be for building code, as far as I understand.
Any discussions with either of the abutting neighbors regarding privacy fencing?
Yes, so that we've had that discussion. We are proposing privacy fencing along all interior side lot lines and the rear lot line. The owner is very happy to coordinate with the neighboring properties to ensure it's a materiality and style that they're comfortable with. We actually just spoke this morning about that, and our plan is to have that discussion fairly soon, and then just make a notation on the site plan to some effect to indicate what that will be, to make sure it's something that everybody's comfortable with.
Yeah, it's a 2.1 meter sandwich board fence.
Exactly. So
yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
So just going to the next slide. Again, this shows the rear elevation and other side elevation. The rear with the removal of the waste storage room, which allowed for opportunity to move all these windows along the rear wall as opposed to the side, which is positive. The proposed staircase is required for egress under the Ontario Building Code. It has been designed as to be as minimal in width as absolutely possible per the building code standards. And that's just to ensure that it's minimally impactful in terms of massing, but also to ensure that it's not used as any informal outdoor space. The building was designed intentionally without balconies to ensure that there's no overlook concerns into neighboring properties, rear yards.
What are the dimensions of the landings at in front of each of those egress doors?
I can pull up the floor plans and see if they're included. I may potentially have to defer to our designer on that question. But the overall width of the, just excuse me while I pull up an easier to see. So the overall width of the entire staircase is 2.01 meters, and then overall to the edge of the rails, it's 2.2. But perhaps our designer could comment on the actual area of the landing itself. I don't have that dimension, unfortunately.
You provide that kind of space that's going to be used for more than just access.
These landings have been designed to be as small as possible for what's required under the building code, correct? So, and there will be emergency exit only signage to ensure that it's used for that purpose only. Further to that, just to sort of speak to it being used, the entirety of the living spaces for each of these units is located towards the Somerset Street frontage, and that will ensure that that side of the apartments are being used as sort of the more livable areas, and the entrances to those are designed to be there. And towards the rear is just the bedrooms and a
So these are bedrooms. Hallway. These are bedrooms at the back on both sides of that hallway.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And again, the materiality is proposed to be black steel to be compatible with the design of the building, and also to ensure longevity and durability, and that it will not become an eyesore, essentially. So just go to the next slide. So overall, the reduction of required lot area in this case is considered minor, as it results in only a 47 meter square reduction while still meeting now all performance standards of the zone, which meets the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. This is, again, just a desktop review of the very immediate block. The properties shown in black are examples of multi-unit low-rise apartment building type developments that are situated on lots that are less than 300 meters squared, so compatible in terms of size and area to the subject site. And again, here are some examples. You'll see the photos of 2- and 3-story low-rise apartment style dwellings within the immediate context. So the proposed development is compatible and appropriate given the built function and form of this neighborhood. Again, primarily red brick, and we're introducing the red brick facade as well as some wood grain to be compatible with the neighborhood, which meets the intent of the official plan. The proposed low-rise building does also add to the diversity of housing choice and stock within the urban area, which is of course supported by the general urban area policies of the official plan. And the development of a fully compliant building, save and except one minor variance, allows for the addition of housing choice and modest intensification and densification that is of compatible size and scale, which is desirable for the appropriate development and use of the land. And given these factors, we are of the opinion that the variance meets the 4 tests under Section 45 of the Planning Act. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Doe. Ms. McLean, you had a question or comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just note that this is relatively new zoning for the area. I think it was approved in October of 2020. So a couple of questions. I'm just wondering what could be built on this property as of right, what use? And then secondly, what prevents, if the variance for lot area is approved, what would prevent it from moving from 4 units to 8 units?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So I believe as of right, there would be permitted use of a detached dwelling and a duplex dwelling, and that would be it. The provisions for a 3-unit dwelling and low-rise dwelling up to 8 units is 300 meters squared. So for any added density from what was presently existing, it would require a variance to the lot area provisions of the zoning bylaw. In terms of conversion in the future to added units, the layout of this building wouldn't make sense to incorporate additional units in the future. The way that the layout has been designed is to have 1 unit per each level. So it doesn't really accommodate for conversion in the future. Also, that would trigger additional sort of changes to the site layout in terms of added bicycle parking required, added area for waste storage, which wouldn't be possible. So this is intended to remain as a 4-unit only building.
I'm just concerned about the wording of variance A, as it says to permit a lot area of 252.82 square meters for a low-rise apartment building with a maximum of 8 units.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So the wording of that just simply matches the wording set out in the R4UB zoning provisions. And that specifies that on a lot of 300 meters squared, an apartment dwelling up to 8 units is permitted as of right. So that was just simply following the wording of that zoning provision, and that was reviewed and confirmed by staff, I believe, as well, if they'd like to add to that.
But we are talking about a 4-unit apartment dwelling. And
Correct.
I guess the other question then, I guess, going back to the uses as of right, this form that you're proposing could be built as a duplex as of right. Am I right in that?
Yes, that's correct. We're just over the required lot area for a duplex.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, Ms. McLean? No, okay.
No.
I believe we have Ms. Porter on the line as well, the next door neighbor who wishes to speak to this application.
Yes, thank you very much. So, Mr. Chair, as you said, I'm Charlotte Porter, and I'm the neighbor at 330 Somerset Street East.
Yep.
Our intent throughout this process is to preserve the livability of our family home in Sandy Hill, and notably the livability of our backyard space, which is an important space for us as a family. And I will note that I would like to say that I do appreciate the collaboration that has taken place with the agent and the owner. I believe we have made positive progress to make this building fit in and be the best or a good solution for the area. So they did address some of our privacy issues, noticeably with the windows peering into the backyard. So that is a very positive thing. The staircase is a concern for us as well, but we've been assured that it's as small as the building code permits, so that you couldn't put a lawn chair or furniture out there, so that really you could only exit or a single person could stand out on it. And then the other big issue was the size. I did have concern with the size of the variance A, being that the building was technically speaking too big for the lot. And then they added an additional garbage compartment onto it, which just kind of extended the footprint again. So in discussions in the past 2 weeks since the last adjournment with the agent and the developer, they've internalized the garbage, which has reduced the footprint, and I think reduces other issues along with garbage that goes in Sandy Hill with like rodents and smell. So that will enhance the livability of our backyard. So I just wanted to put on the record, though, we still have concerns for the trees, but we've had conversations with the agent, and I believe going on good faith. I've been told that during the construction, they're going to do what is required to preserve the trees, notably our tree in the backyard, the city tree on the front easement, and we also have a cedar hedge in the front. They've also confirmed that they plan to remove the tree on their property, and that in the removal of the tree, they're going to do what is required to ensure that our tree is not affected, because one of the concerns that I have is that that type of tree can lose limbs, and the limbs hang over our backyard, which is where our children and we spend time. So the health of our tree is important. And then the other aspect that they haven't been able to clarify yet is that if they do remove the tree, I see it as kind of an eye for an eye. If you're going to remove the tree, you need to put in another tree. I believe they need to clear that with hydro. And I've been told that their intent is to put in a tree that is permissible. And if a tree is not able to be put in, then they will put in shrubbery such as the lilac bush, just to add an additional buffer along that fence to enhance the privacy of the backyard. And then finally, as our discussions, my discussion that I had with the agent today is that the developer and the owner will discuss with me the privacy fence, and that he's willing to consider like what our preference of a privacy fence and how that should go along. So again, that's a good faith kind of conversation that that we'll have, but I trust based on the collaboration that we've had to date that those should not be concerns. And that said, those are my comments, and the proposed plans are acceptable in my point of view.
Thank you, Ms. Porter. Ms. Dow, the doors on the landings at the back open outwards? Or are they open inwards?
I'm just looking at the floor plans. They look to open inwards.
Okay. So you could put a couple of chairs on those landings if you had to. We are in a university. We are in a university district, you know.
Through property management, though, and leasing as well, we think that it can also be approached through that those will have to, because they're emergency egress required under the building code, we will have to ensure that they're kept free and clear of objects and chairs and furniture.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know, and it's good the neighbors know, because the last thing they want is a party zone, a newly built 4-story party zone at the rear.
No, we agree completely, and we're happy to make sure that necessary wording is included in leasing and things like that to make sure that's not the case.
I think everybody along Somerset would rather that the party stayed on Russell Avenue. I used to live on that street right where that happened. Anyhow, okay. So Ms. Porter, just to respond to Ms. Porter's comments for trees, I guess the discussions are ongoing about replacing.
That's correct. So through you, Mr. Chair, the situation with the rear yard and the trees, the owner is absolutely happy to plant trees, at least one tree and some shrubbery as well. So actually just this morning, because of the ongoing nature with the review and deciding how the backyard orientation would work with the property, we weren't able to update the landscape plan in advance for today, but that is ongoing through review through the site plan control process. That said, they have looked at the new plans and assured us that there will be opportunity to plant at least a smaller tree in the rear yard. I was explaining to Ms. Porter as well this morning that this was also requested by the counselor's office. So she does have some extra assurances that she's not the only person requesting the tree. We are happy to plant a tree. The issue is that there's a hydro pole right in that back corner. So there are required clearances from hydro's perspective.
Yes,
so wherever there can be, yes. So wherever there can be some either low-lying shrubbery planted that won't be impeding the hydro clearances, or whether it's pushed even towards the center of the lot more so to at least provide some type of greenery and buffering, we're certainly going to be looking at through the site plan control process. I was hoping to have an updated landscape plan to show you today, but unfortunately it's just not ready yet.
All right. Ms. Porter, I'm assuming you have the contact information for the site plan planner?
Not that I'm aware of, but I'm sure I can get that from.
Well, I think Ms. Daou can probably provide you with that if you have any questions for the site regarding site plan.
Yeah.
A good idea.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just have a question. How, because I'm new to this development process, and I was interested by your point about the opening of the doors. And wondering if a potential change could be made so that the doors would open outward, because would that make it less likely that furniture would be placed on the railing?
That's a possibility, but it all depends. It depends on fire code as well, and building code for those types of facilities, because they are emergency egress. So the doors open in, do the doors open out? That's, I think, quite frankly, something you can discuss with Ms. Daou and the site plan planner.
Okay.
if I may just comment on that, I'm not an architect, so I can't speak to the actual building code requirements. However, just presuming based on how doors function and potential snow, I would think it's a safety issue to have them open outwards because they could potentially be blocked by accident, something happening.
Yeah.
And in the event of emergency exit, you'd have to have them swing open inwards so that you can exit. And there's nothing impeding you where you couldn't move it.
Yeah, understood. Mr. Wilder, you had a question? No? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Daou. Thank you, Ms. Porter, for your comments. We have before us an amended application that has reduced the variance request is simply for lot area. The other three variances we were presented with back several months ago have been eliminated. I thank Ms. Daou for a very comprehensive, on behalf of the committee, for a very comprehensive presentation on this application. And I think, between yourselves, you're the owner and the next door neighbor, the majority of the issues look to be resolvable, which is nice to see. Sometimes it's not all that friendly between neighbors when these things happen, as you know.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah. Any further comments from the panel on this application? All right, we're prepared to vote. Okay. All in favor of granting the application as amended? Your application is granted. Good luck with your project.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yep. And with that ends this session of the Committee of Adjustment, and we are adjourned. And we'll see the members on the reserve here.